Now on the American Health Journal. Cosmetic dentistry is wildly popular these days, but it hasn't always been that way. When you visit the dental office of Dr. Patrick Cohen in Beverly Hills, you can be sure of two things. One, you're being treated at a practice with a long legacy of pioneering advances in cosmetic dentistry. And two, it's entirely possible you'll run into someone famous in the waiting room. Academy Award-winning actor Martin Landau of Mission Impossible fame has been a patient here for years.
Actually, Dr. Cohen's grandfather was my dentist, and he was an old-timer who actually was a pioneer in truth. I mean, an old-time dentist who really was very adventurous, and he was a terrific dentist and did things that very few people did at that time.
Dr. David Marcus blazed the trail. He helped pioneer cosmetic dentistry.
Modern cosmetic dentistry, as we know it, it's thought that it started in the 60s, but actually we're finding my grandfather was doing it back in the late 40s.
And in the process, Dr. Marcus became the first dentist to the stars.
If you look at some of the patients that Dr. Marcus used to treat, people like Judy Garland, Marlon Brando, Sidney Poitier, Carol O'Connor, okay? Some of the old timers may remember Hugh O'Brien, okay, Henry Fonda. These are all people that they made their living speaking. They were in front of a camera and they were speaking, and they had to be able to talk, they had to be able to smile, they had to be able to enunciate. And so a lot of these people would have things done to their teeth because either their smile wasn't good or maybe they had a horrible history. Cary Grant's a perfect example. I mean, he lost his teeth when he was in his late or early 40s, I think it was. And Clark Gable was also, they both wore dentures.
You know, people like Henry Hathaway were his clients who were tough. I mean, you know, if Henry was a director I worked with in Nevada Smith. And for Henry to, you know, go to a dentist, you know, he could have gone to any dentist, and if he didn't like a dentist, you heard about it. Well, he liked this dentist.
Dr. Cohen received his training under his grandfather and remembers well his stories about how it all began.
It started out actually with the movie studios. And what was happening was that they would get these new young starlets and drop dead gorgeous, beautiful, enunciated well, and then they smiled. And their smiles were horrific. And my grandfather was friends with an old-timer by the name of Adolf Zucker, who was a huge studio head way back when. And what they were doing is they would bring these women in the morning, and he would prepare the teeth, and then they'd come back that night, and they would have made the teeth out of a pressed acrylic with a gold coping button in the back so that when their lower teeth hit their upper teeth, it hit against the gold.
As usual in show business, not everything went according to script.
Well, one of the interesting stories about this is that he actually did a couple of girls, I think it was in the early 50s, he did a couple of girls on the same day. And 2 days later, Zucker calls him and is yelling at him. What the hell did you do to these patients? What were these girls? He says, what are you talking about? He says, we looked at the dailies yesterday and their teeth are blue. He says, what are you talking about? Their teeth are blue. Turns out the girls had just gotten their teeth cemented. The very next day they had lunch at the commissary and they ate blueberry pie. And the cement and everything hadn't set. The girls' teeth turned blue.
Today, Martin Landau credits Dr. Marcus and his grandson Patrick with making his distinguished career before the cameras possible.
No question about it. I mean, I depend on, you know, my teeth being there. Otherwise, I'd be playing Walter Brennan roles. He lost all of his teeth as a very young man. That's why he was playing character parts when he was in his 30s.
Martin Landau has been a patient of mine for about 20 some odd years now. And Martin's had some ups and downs with his teeth, but the thing about Martin is that he had to have a nice smile, an acceptable smile, but it had to be natural looking. And that's the key. And one of the things that we get into, if you look closely at some of the Hollywood people today, their smiles aren't as natural as they should be. You know, we want to be able to look at somebody and say, wow, they've got a pretty smile, not wow, they've got a pretty smile, who did their teeth? Okay, and that's what the big differential is.
People who, have one of those plates that looks like it was, like a piano. That's not, I mean, if you have a set of teeth like that, you don't want to smile a whole lot. In fact, you don't want to open your mouth.
When I look at Martin Landau and somebody says, well, yeah, his teeth look normal. Well, yeah, they do look normal, but if they actually knew the amount of work that had to be done to get them to look that way, and the fact that without having done that work, his teeth would look not good at all, that's the kind of thing we're looking for. We want people to look good. True cosmetic dentistry is about making somebody have a great, great smile without there being any noticeable change that somebody's going to look at you and say, okay, something's been done, you look different, but I don't know what.
I mean, he's was able to put a smile on my face, or keep a smile on my face, to quote unquote. I mean, and I need that.
As one of my little calling cards is we're changing the world one smile at a time, and or the best calling card is a beautiful smile. The bottom line here is that people emotionally will feel more comfortable when they smile.
And so, Dr. Patrick Cohen carries on the traditions of cosmetic dentistry, pioneered by his grandfather, proving to his patients, both famous and not, that getting a great smile doesn't have to be mission impossible.